Woo! What's going on, guys? Arms Form coming at you today with another video, and I'm back with the NFL draft prospect videos. This is going to be my analysis of the NFL draft prospects that I'm going to kind of throw out on my channel, and I've had a couple requests, but how I'm going to do this on my channel. The Lions, obviously, like during the combine and stuff like that, NFL teams meet up with certain players and they have a list of players that they meet. And I kind of, you have to search a little bit for those lists. And the Lions have a list of who they kind of were looking at, on who they talked to, on who they interviewed, on who they've met with multiple occasions. That's all really that we have. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to draft those players, but that's who I'm going to kind of take a look at, these guys, more often than not. There'll be a couple other guys that I kind of throw in there as well. And the way I'm going to do these, I'm trying to get this out really fast. I like to watch game film. I like to read up on info. Information's really big, magazines, all that type of stuff. But game film's really where you want to kind of gauge these players, game film, game tape, whatever you need to watch, all 22. If you want to go to YouTube and look at YouTube highlights, that's fine. I do that, but you have to be a little bit careful with the YouTube highlights, because I'm telling you right now, any schmuck can put out YouTube highlights of their college days or even their NFL days, whatever they want to do. You can even do high school. You know what I mean? So you got to be really careful on just watching YouTube highlights, because there's nothing negative. And I'm going to try to come up with the strengths, the weaknesses, kind of their overall game, on what we're possibly going to get at the NFL level, and possibly with our Detroit Lions if we're going to draft that said player. Okay, so I'm not just reading off a book. I'm not just, I'm not just looking at YouTube highlights. I'm kind of giving you my personal analysis of what I think these players are. Now, I'm no NFL scout. I don't pretend to be, but I like to think that I have a little bit of a grasp on the game of football, just a tiny bit, where I know I can gauge a player, and I can just give you my opinion of that said player. Now, let's dive into my first guy, defensive end, NFL draft prospect, defensive end, Jack Sawyer out of the OHIO State Buckeyes. Big Ten guy. I'll take a dive into this guy right now from the OSU. Is there a chance that the Lions can select a guy like this? He was a guy that the Lions did bring in for an interview, whatever they did at the combine. How they've, I don't really know how many times they've met with Jack Sawyer, but they have met with him. They have talked to him. There have been rumblings out there that Brad Holmes likes the kid. There's a lot of guys that these guys are going to like. But let's talk about Jack Sawyer. Now, stats. 4 years as a OHIO State Buckeye. And by the way, no bias. I have no bias. I am a Michigan fan through and through. You guys see all the stuff back here. Michigan Wolverines, baby. But when it comes to the NFL, if Jack Sawyer becomes an OHIO State, if Jack Sawyer becomes a Detroit Lion or anything like that, I'm all in. I don't care what school you went to. It does not matter to me. I know there's a lot of Michigan fans, MSU fans, that don't like anything to do with Ohio State. Michigan State doesn't like anything to do with Michigan. I don't care what school you went, man. When it comes to coming into the pros, all bets are off. You're a Lion, you're a Lion. That's it. Don't care what university you went to. Let's get to it. 6'4", ranges from about 240 to 260 pounds. 22 years old, Jack Sawyer, 4 years at Ohio State, like I said. His stats for 4 years: 144 tackles, 28 and a half tackles for loss, 11 PBUs, pass breakups, pass deflections, 15 quarterback hits, 6 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries, 1 interception, 2 touchdowns. 2 of them were fumble returns. 1 was a big, long one, I believe, in the Rose Bowl. I think it was the Rose Bowl, national championship game, whatever it was. He turned it on last year during the college football playoffs, by the way. So that shows you what kind of stamina the kid has right there. And then he had 23 sacks in 4 years, 9 altogether last year, and that includes the college football playoffs, where I think he had at least 3. He had at least 3 sacks. Not a sack guy, but we'll get into that. Now, there's a lot of strengths to this guy, okay? We talk about his strengths, we're going to talk about his weaknesses, and we're going to talk about his overall a game for what I think he's going to be at the next level. Now, his strength, he's got nice ideal size for defensive end, edge, whatever he's going to play. 6'4", 6'5", 240 plus, 250, 260. He's got ideal size. Plays the run and pass very well. I think he's more of a run defender than he is a pass rusher, but we'll talk about that too. He can set the edge. He uses his hands well. He's very powerful, polished, nonstop motor. He's a big-time leader in the locker room. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear a Dan Campbell type guy, Brad Holmes type player. A guy with grit. I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, but he is that type of guy. He comes up clutch. He came up huge, and like I said, in that natty run with sacks, fumble returns, and the touchdown to boot. Incredible stamina. It tells you, he's been pretty healthy his career at Ohio State. Couple nicks and bruises here. Nothing major. He missed a little bit of time, but nothing to where you need to worry about. He did tear his MCL. I'll talk about that. That was in high school though. But his stamina is through the roof because is a guy that had a decent season with about 5 to 6 sacks during the season and just poured it on in the college playoffs. So that tells you how he keeps himself in shape, and his stamina is very good. He's a versatile guy. He can play the hybrid jack linebacker, right defensive end. He's played left defensive end. He's not going to kick it inside too much, but he can stand up, hand in the dirt. I really like his get off, man, with his hand in the dirt. When he stand up, it's a little bit weaker. We'll get into those weaknesses too. But his hand in the dirt, I really like his get off when his hand is in the dirt. He plays with some discipline. Okay, awareness is very good. He can recognize things pre and post snaps, so he can sniff some plays out. His speed to power is really good. He's got a nice lower body on him. Some very strong legs. He can generate that power on his bull rush right there, and he's got a nice high football IQ. And like I said, I really like his hand in the dirt a little bit more than when he's standing up, but he can do both. Okay, now with the strengths come the weaknesses, and we talk about those weaknesses. He can be a little bit stiff at times. Okay, he's got shorter arms. Yes, that's a thing. I know. A few years back with the Aiden Hutchinson thing, short arms, and look what Hutch is now. You know what I mean? He's turning himself into an elite pass rusher before our very eyes. I think he already is. It just sucks that he got hurt last year. Now I'm not comparing Jack Sawyer to Aiden Hutchinson by any stretch, but the short arms are there. The length isn't ideal that you want for a defensive end, so they are a little bit shorter. Now he doesn't have a heavy arsenal of pass rush moves as well. He depends a lot on the bull rush. And the bull rush is there. He's very strong, stout. He can get right underneath an O-lineman and drive and push up and give O-lineman a lot of problems. But if he's not winning on motor and effort and that bull rush, he tends to struggle a little bit to find ways to win reps because he doesn't have second, third moves to his arsenal. He's very dependent on that bull rush. And that's basically it right there, man. He's got a few little moves here and there, but he's not a finesse guy. He's not gonna. His bend is very, very limited. What would I say right here? Not very twitchy or athletic. You're not seeing this guy jump off the page, and with his shoulder, pretty much. He's not Von Miller. He's not Myles Garrett. He's not those type of guys where they can bend to a point where you see these guys' elbows dragging literally off the ground with their shoulders dipping right into the dirt. You're not going to see that from Jack Sawyer. You're not going to see the bend. You're not going to see those rips like that. It's just not going to happen. He's going to have to really, really work on that part of his game, and I think he can. It's just his athletics aren't through the roof. They're just not through the roof. And I know Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes, they're metric guys. They love those RAS scores or those athletic scores. They're big on them. Doesn't mean they won't draft a kid, but they are big on those. And he has trouble bending around O-linemen, just right then and there. Not very lateral. That's why he's usually not going to be a guy that's going to drop back into coverage. You could see him maybe dropping back into his zone, standing there, but he's not running with running backs. He's not running with tight ends. He's not that type of defensive end where you see more of a Hutch who can kind of do that every now and then. Now, you don't really want Hutchinson doing that, but he's much more athletic. So where you're going to see a Jack Sawyer, if he's dropping back, he's sitting low, and he's just looking around. He's not playing man up on nobody. He's just keeping his arms out. He's literally in a space, and he will attack where he needs to attack. But he's not going to be a guy that is going to run with running backs, tight ends. He's just not going to be that type of player in the early stages of his career, which I don't think he ever really be, but you never know. He's going to need to work on his feet at the next level to take that next step, in my opinion. Like I said, not lateral, so he's going to have to work on those feet. And he won't be a three-down defender right away, in my opinion. He can be over-aggressive at times. He'll over-pursue, because he's 150% all the time. There's one thing that you're going to notice about this kid at the next level, if you never watched him in college, is that he's super aggressive, and he will over pursue. He will miss tackles. He will take himself out of the gap. He will do those type of things. That's going to make you drive you a little bit crazy at times. But he is a good football player. Now, overall, I really like the kid, but I think he is limited to a point. I really think he's limited. I think he's a better run defender than he is a pass rusher. He needs to work on secondary pass rush moves. Like I said, the overall game. He could be, though, a 6 to 8 sack guy off the jump, and for the next couple years, he's a guy that maybe could get you, like I said, 6 to 8 sacks maybe in the first couple years, and maybe he can work on that. But I think that's what type of player he is when you're talking about strictly the pass rush. Okay, because I think he's a better run defender than he is a pass rusher. Teams will love his character. They will love his leadership. He's a hard worker that will need to earn more playing time, in my opinion. His work ethic is through the roof, so I don't really see that being too much of an issue down the stretch. He will get better as the years progress. He's going to be a productive NFL player, in my opinion. He's going to help out on the defense. And he can definitely better his overall game, I think, the more years he's in the NFL. He's just going to get better as a football player, but I don't think he's going to be that type of guy where he's going to be a superstar. And I could be completely wrong on the guy. It's just my opinion. That's why I look at these guys, and I just give you my best analysis in my perspective. He's going to be a rotational piece, I think, right off the bat. I don't see him as a 3-down defender, like I said. I have him going in the second round. I've seen some information on him. I've seen mock drafts and I've seen experts saying that this guy's going to be a 3rd-round pick. He's going to be a 4th-round pick. I've seen 2nd-round pick. I've even seen a couple where they mocked this kid late in the 1st round. I don't think he's going to fall into the 1st-round category, but all it takes is one GM, one coach, one DC or whatever to fall in love with this guy, and it could happen. Now, I don't see it. I see him as a 2nd-round player that could slip into the 3rd round, but I see him as a 2nd-round guy. Like I said, someone's going to fall in love with him. He has the talent. He just needs to harness it and really flourish. So it's going to take him a little bit of time, and I think he has it in him. Now, sometimes I'll do player comps. Sometimes I'll read up on player comps. With this guy, I couldn't really find a player comp. I did read one player comp that I was a little bit intrigued with. Defensive end linebacker Carl Lawson. If you remember Carl, he plays for the Cowboys now, I believe. He was a 4th-round pick by the Bengals back in 2017 out of Auburn. He was an Auburn Tiger. He reminds me a little bit of his game kind of coming out. His numbers are similar, not high sack totals, lack of length, plays the run pretty good. The athleticism isn't really there, but he's a NFL productive player. Carl Lawson's been productive in the NFL. He's bounced around on a couple teams, but he is still an NFL player. 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8 years, 9 years going on into the NFL. So he's a guy that's been around. And I think that's it's going to be Jack Sawyer's kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? I think that's kind of going to be maybe his path a little bit. I can kind of agree with the Carl Lawson kind of comparisons, the comp. When Carl Lawson came out, 2017, when he was drafted by the Bengals in the 4th round, he had 8.5 sacks as a rookie. 8.5 sacks. Then got hurt, came back. He missed a year because of COVID. Came back and he had 5.5 sacks last year as a Cowboy. He's not a great football player, Carl Lawson, but he's productive. He's pretty productive. You know, he's not a guy that you're going to be wowed by, but the comp is kind of real. I can kind of agree with that comp. Now, sometimes I'm not going to have a comp for players. Sometimes I just won't be able to find one myself, or I won't be able to agree on one that's either in a magazine or on the computer that I'm, you know, or by any expert that kind of comps those said players to each other. But I do kind of agree with the Carl Lawson comp. A productive football player, a rotational piece, a guy that's not going to wow you with the numbers and his athleticism, but is going to be productive in the end, more than not, I guess. You know what I mean? So Carl Lawson right there, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Carl Lawson. I agree with that. So that's it, guys. Jack Sawyer, 16-minute plus video, going on 17 minutes. I like the kid. I think he's a 2nd-round guy. Does Brad Holmes interested in him? I know he's interviewed him. I know they talked to him at the Combine. We'll see what happens. That's one scratched off. If you like anybody else, guys, throw it up there. But there's a list that I kind of have right now who has Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell and Kelvin Shepard and John Morton have all kind of talked to over the past couple months. Combine, all that stuff, pro days are going on and all that stuff. So draft coming up around the corner. So I'm going to try to pump out these videos, man. So Jack Sawyer, first one off the list, bang. The Ohio State Buckeye, good football player. I think he's a 2nd-round pick, and I think he's a defensive end. I don't think he's going to play much linebacker, but he can go left, right. Not going to bounce it inside too much. He can stand up a little bit, but you don't want the kid dropping back in coverage. So that's it, guys. I'm talking too much. So thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button at the bottom right. Don't forget to hit the notification bell up top. Don't forget to like, comment, share this out. Jack Sawyer, do you think he could be a Detroit Lion coming in the draft at the end of April? I'm going to try and pump these guys. Oh, guys, thanks a lot. Detroit Lions, grit, Detroit versus everybody. Let's go. Boom.